of the Rant Network. And today is Wednesday, December the 7th, 2022. We're getting ready to get to our top 10, which I'm sure Dave and I are going to be talking about real soon. But speaking of top 10s, since 1927, almost 100 years, there has been a symbol that, the world used to look at as being the person named that was the man or person of the year. I think they said that really wrong, but that's okay. Every year for the past quarter century and counting included 92 Bill Clinton, it included Yasser Arafat, it included Pope John Paul II, Newt Gingrich, David Ho, Andrew Grove. It included Jeff Bezos, George W. Bush, Giuliani, the group of the whistleblowers, the person here. But what happened as time went on, this man of the year or person of the year or group of the year seems to be more of a political selection versus someone who really is deserving of this person of the year. To have Vladimir Putin in 2007 being named the man of the year, Obama 2008. David, how do you feel about all this?
Well, Stuart, I'll tell you, it's interesting because Time's concept is someone who that was their idea. And by the by, today, just a little bit here, folks, and we are live, so I apologize when there's a glitch with a microphone or a computer edit. We are live. Well, sure enough, wouldn't you know it that they announced that Vladimir Person of the Year. Okay? The most newsworthy individual in 22. Who did he beat out, ladies and gentlemen? Well, Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, who, okay, everybody got excited. And when you talk about him, it's like, what has he done? Oh, he's faced what makes him the man of the year, or the person of the year, as you say, Stuart. I find that flogged in not, in terms of his human rights violations, of allowing Uyghurs to live inhumanely. Supreme Court, because it shot down Roe v. Wade, because on a global scale, that's understood thing. Mackenzie Scott, the ex-wife of Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, because she gave away money. She gave away $12.8 billion of her money. Gun safety advocates. Janet Yellen, who was the first woman Treasury Secretary. Lady screwed the Republican Party. And they continue to talk about how wonderful was part of the January 6th committee. But the person that got away from the left, Stuart, is your buddy, your governor. It's amazing when you go through the list of the people here, and you brought up Vladimir Putin, I brought up people of this world, Time, and people who read Time continue to show. I'm appalled by this mindset. You person of the year. You should be called terrorist of the year. Okay? DeSantis gets nominated because according, Time central governor, controversial. What did Ron DeSantis do in 2022, Stuart? I don't know. Fixed Florida, made it a better place to live during hurricanes and help people get back to work, open schools for people's personal rights. That was apparently wrong. So, Stuart, this whole notion of nominating these individuals, and frankly, Vladimir's a wonderful Zelensky is, and that he is the baby, the darling of 2022. He's also got a pretty serious dark side. Okay, and what you see, media wants to distort, and so for me, Stuart, part of what I'm fighting just for person of the year, I think it ignored a lot of other key story world. But again, convenient for North America, these were the ones that made the most sense, of course, in the United States, what happens in the world. So, Stuart, how do you feel about these persons of?
David, listen, I always take a hardened approach to life, and I've really, really taken a big disdain to modern politics, though people accuse me of being all the way to the right. I think people like to accuse people of being a certain way if they don't agree with you. And that is probably the main reason why yesterday every left-wing news media agency, like parrots, were all talking about how in the world could they have nominated Ron DeSantis. Not why did they nominate Xi Jinping? How could they have done that, right? He's on the verge of another Tiananmen Square. He's backed Russia, or didn't descend against Russia's invasion to Ukraine, that the world, I must add, is against, right? And yet he lies as a candidate, but they don't talk about that, David, because that's politics that they're not going to get into. They need to control the politics here at home, the dialogue here at home. If you cannot beat them because you have no record to beat them, if you have no platform in which you can stand up and say they've done something wrong with any evidence, the only way you can do something is to try and destroy them, their integrity, right? To try and misstate things that they say. I just say, I conclude that statement by, if you lived in the United States during the pandemic, I lived in one of the freest states in the entire world. Florida led, and the world followed slowly. Now, California, New York, right, is amongst a few states that are all very left leaning for over 20 years that are falling apart. They are wrecked at the knees. Florida, a right leaning state, which, by the way, it's not really a right leaning state. It's actually pretty much a 50-50 with a massive independent group in the middle, with probably the second highest aged population next to, I believe, New Hampshire, right? And so this governor, who hasn't thrown in the towel to run for president yet, they have to destroy, because his record is impeccable and unimpeachable. And that is the whole grounds on how people start to convert into a 1923 to 1928 mentality. How do you take a population and have them hate so much everyone else that doesn't agree with them? David, you constantly tell me that I draw reference in history and no one wants history lessons. But we're coming over the 1932 to 1938, yes. But I mean, it really started post after the First World War, right? 1920s, the early 20s is when that movement really started, right?
Stuart, let me cut you off here for just a second here, because what you're bringing up is a really interesting point. For just a second, right? Look what they've done. Time puts on a Cheney because she went against the Republican Party.
Right, exactly.
The people, if you look at the liberal media, they couldn't do enough for Liz Cheney. Here, Ron DeSantis, who added value, added amounts to the state of Florida, gets vilified. Kudos, at least time to put him as a person. Look at the rhetoric, look at the remarks, look at the sound, and you're right. Listen, Stuart, I'm going to tell states right now, as, believe it or not, divisive political country out there. You guys cannot, and this is proof positive, that someone who tries to destroy right gets on a pedestal. And the person who tries to help is torn to shreds because he's on the Republican Party. You're right. It's hate. It's hate propaganda at its best. And what happened in the 30s and other countries, including the United States, by the way, I guess we don't learn from history. By the way, I don't disagree with you for giving history lessons. I'm just saying this history lesson forgotten.
Yeah, and I know it'll be forgotten because, most people don't want to remember. But like, again, the anarchists, which has become the Democratic Party, which isn't the Democratic Party of the 1960s or 70s either. I mean, that's what I think a big disconnect is, that people are party driven, not political person driven.
But look what happened. Look what happened yesterday in Georgia.
Yep.
You had people on the left who voted for Warnock, regardless of his track record, voting for Herschel Walker, regardless of his track record or lack thereof. And instead, people went based on a color, and I mean the color of the party, not the color of the individual, their platforms. I would tell you right now, in listening to CNN and Fox yesterday during the coverage and Walker race, it was clear. Policies didn't matter. What mattered? Party affiliation was all that mattered. It had nothing to do with what Warnock could or that matter for Walker. And that just shows you how it doesn't matter. I don't know, sir. I know you're not a sports fan, but this is NASCAR. And if you ever see NASCAR, you cannot cheer for another driver. If you're cheering for one drive, you sit with those fans and you are not allowed to cheer for anybody else. And that exists. And this is Time Person of the Year, just a reaction to Ron DeSantis' nomination house. The left losing its mind and excited. Kudos to Liz Cheney and kudos to Vladimir Zelensky. Just shows you what the mindset is.
And Dave, I don't think that mindset's changing anytime soon either. Listen, David, we've talked about the divisiveness. We've talked about the call to togetherness. The left seems to want to be the party of inclusiveness, but does everything to be exclusive. You don't agree with me?
Stuart, look, you're right. And you see what happens with Twitter, all these things. We know what the left doesn't want. The left doesn't want you to disagree. That's why Ron DeSantis is bad, because no one on the right can be good. The conservatism represents evil, Stuart. The right Republicans represent Hitler. They throw white supremacists. They throw all these remarks at. But like, if you sit and you listen and you ask yourself, well, what are they doing? What are they doing right, or what are they doing wrong? They can't. And they can't answer you that. They're all wrong. They're all Trumpists. I don't care if you're Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley. If you
don't agree with me, you're a Trumpist. That's it.
Same bucket. That's it. That's been the remark. And by the way, as I drove into work this morning, radio, it's the same comment again. Okay, anybody, they were commenting about the. You see, people on the right don't know how to think. They can only vote red. Like, what do you mean it's only the red? This is the problem I have. And this is where, may have, could have done better in my list. Again, I'll go back to what I said, the persons of the year, the choices. I think we're missing some good ones. But to see the response, Stuart, from the left, it's fascinating. So anyways, I guess we'll have to be doing this again on Friday.
All right, guys, I'm going to say goodbye again, live and streaming every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, quarter hour. You can have a coffee. You can take a break from your monitors. You can take a break and just download and record us, catch us on any of the 30 verticals that we push out to. And again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for giving us messages. Give us more love. We love you. Cheers. David, say goodbye.
Bye. Cheers.